Council.
We are. February 6th, 2025, Committee of the Whole meeting. February 7th, 2025, Special Council meeting. February 11th, 2025, Regular Council meeting. And February 25th, 2025, Regular Council meeting.
I'll second.
I need a motion first.
So moved.
Councillor Hoare,
You got it, Sean.
And I will second.
Councillor Anderson,
Thank
all
you.
in favor? None opposed, that carries. Is there any unfinished business? Seeing none, there are 3 bylaw items on our agenda. The first bylaw is the annual taxation bylaw, and it will be presented by our Director of Finance, Mr. Cadman.
Thank you, Mayor. So the tax rate bylaw is the final piece of the 2025 financial process. In the past, the 5-year financial plan and the tax rate bylaw have been moved together. This year, we adopted the 5-year financial plan early before we had the requisitions for the other levels of government, which is why they've been staggered. The recommendation is to give the first 3 readings. At the back, there's the tax rates, which after getting some questions, those are the mill rates. So that's actually applied against the BC assessment value, which is what your actual tax amount will be. So those rates were, as we discussed in the 5-year financial plan, no changes.
So this is a format that we have not seen before. So the mill rates, I don't know what this means taxation-wise. Can you explain it?
So this is, I believe, what's been done in prior years. Basically, those are the rates that we will actually charge. So when we say tax rate, that's what gets applied against the BC assessed value. So BC assessment gives you the value in your home. That is the actual tax rate that gets applied against your assessed value, which then is what we will charge.
So these are percentages?
No. So those are the rate is divided by 1,000, and then that's applied against the value of your house. So that is the actual rate. Yeah.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Cadman? Councillor Anderson?
So commercial, sorry, commercial is 12.51 versus residential 3.4. And then we're adding in the other 3 parts. So general municipal is 12.51. And then we're adding on the other values for the ACRD, the hospital and library.
Exactly. So that's for their requisitions. Basically, for those, we get a requisition amount, and then we put that into the system, which breaks out between classes. That gives us your mill rate.
Where's the police one go? The RCMP, is that in ACRD?
No, so that's a separate one. So in addition to those, we have the police, school, and BC assessment, and we just continued what we've done in the past. Those have been left off the bylaw.
Right. So we still, even if you had all these numbers, you still can't really calculate your taxes at this point. You still have a couple more things that you have to do.
Yeah,
They're not out yet, are they?
they just came out today. Yeah.
So technically, everybody has what they need to figure it out if they wanted to figure out what their taxes are today.
Yeah. So everything on there, they would have to do some research to get the school and police mill rates, but everything has now been published that they could use to calculate.
All right. Well, I think looking at these, and I don't know, hopefully once we get this pay parking going, that we can knock these taxes down for next year. But yeah, just a side comment there.
Yeah, I think it's at the bottom of page 53. It says the ones that are not included in this bylaw, as they've already been established under provincial legislation, include the school tax, policing, municipal finance authority, and BC assessment.
Right.
So those are the 4 that just came out today.
Perfect.
Any other questions for Mr. Cadman? Seeing none, there is a suggested motion.
I'll move that council give first, second, and third reading to District of Ucluelet Annual Tax Rates Bylaw number 1371, 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Mafty. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. Thank you.
It's a new font on that report. It's like a very heavy serif font.
6.2, public notice bylaw. This will be presented by our Manager of Corporate Services, Mr. Chow.
Through Mayor to Council. This is brought to our attention when we try to prepare for the upcoming by-election. Lots of municipalities have adopted similar bylaw, very straightforward, basically reduce the reliance on the local newspaper because they have published a deadline, it's usually a couple of days before the published date. And now, if we designate the district website and UKmail, we in control. So we can always meet the statutory requirements. Thank you.
So that this doesn't mean we're omitting the Westerly News completely, but it gives us other options.
Yeah, we can still advertise as a newspaper, but it will not be counted as statutory requirements.
Right, okay. Any other questions for Mr. Chow? Seems pretty straightforward. There is one recommendation.
I can move that.
Councillor Anderson.
I'll move the council give first, second, and third reading to the District of Euclid Public Notice Bylaw number 1377, 2025.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion?
So this is where we encourage everybody to sign up for UKmail.
Absolutely.
If you're not already on it, get on it.
Absolutely. And browse the website for notices. Yeah. No other further discussion. All in favor? None opposed. That carries. The last bylaw is the traffic and parking bylaw, and once again, it will be presented by our Manager of Corporate Services, Mr. Chow.
Through Mayor to Council. Originally, we were thinking about only amending the bylaw, but when the Young Anderson lawyer was reviewed the amendment, it noticed the bylaw itself has been 20 years old. There are lots of duplication, confusion, outdated wording. So, in light of our upcoming new parking program, so the Young Anderson lawyer recommended us just did an overhaul of the bylaw, bring everything up to date, make sure we have the authority to collect those pay parking revenue. We do anticipate, that this bylaw doesn't cover everything. So once it's run for a couple of months, we will bring an amendment to cover all the things not covered in current version. Thank you.
So if we make some changes to the parking rates, for example, then that can be an amendment to this bylaw.
Yes.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Chow?
Just to make sure I understand this, so the new parking program is supposed to start May 1st. There's the public information session on April 16th, and the idea would be to basically have the new bylaw in place so that everything subsequently is covered under the new bylaw.
Yes. So our plan is if council pass through reading at this meeting. Tomorrow we have 2 info session, 2 to 4 for stakeholder, and 5 to 7 for public. We will compile everything we have, and either put on the website, have like a FAQ, frequent asked question, try to cover them. And next council meeting, April 29, we would recommend council adopt so that the bylaw will be effective. But as I explained, we would not do the amendment right away because we anticipate once we launch the program, we will have lots of questions coming toward us. So after a couple of months, we compile everything, do a big amendment. Thank you.
Wise.
Any other questions for Mr. Chow? I have one. Do we know if the license plate reader has arrived yet for the bylaw officer's vehicle?
I have to check on it. I haven't talked to Don recently, so.
Because I thought it would be nice for us as councillors to do a little test drive and see how it works, if that's an opportunity. Okay, seeing no further discussion, there is one recommendation.
I will move that council give first, second, and third reading to District of Euclid Traffic and Parking Bylaw number 1376, 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Hoare. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Mafty seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. There are 4 report items this evening. The first report item is appointment of corporate officer, and this report will be presented by our interim CAO, Mr. Harding.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick one is that appointing Mr. Chow now as your corporate officer, and also to remove Mr. Lawrence as a previous corporate officer. There's also a few other items on the report. We have a new assistant corporate officer coming in a month. Once that's in place, then we'll do another report to appoint that person also as corporate officer.
Is your microphone turned on?
Sorry, how about that? How about now?
That's much better. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, this
It's a new-
report will
some
be
new.
presented by our interim CAO, Mr. Harding.
Thank you.
Could you
You
repeat
want me to
that?
retry? Oh,
Yes.
sorry, yes. So, thank you. So the report is really to appoint Mr. Chow as as the district's corporate officer, to remove Mr. Lawrence, who was recently retired from being corporate officer, and also outlining that in a month or so we'll bring another report forward to you to appoint the deputy approving officer, or deputy corporate officer.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Harding?
Welcome.
Thank you. I'll be better on the microphone next time.
Perfect. It's just for people watching on Zoom.
Yes, I get.
That's the only reason we use the mics. Seeing
Million public followers, you know.
seeing no further discussion, there's 2 recommendations, but they can be moved together, correct? Yes.
I can do that.
Okay, Councillor Anderson.
I will move that council appoint Mr. Ed Chow as the corporate officer for the district, and I'll further move that council rescind the appointment of Mr. Dwayne Lawrence as the corporate officer for the district.
I'll second.
Thank you, and Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. The second report item is appointment of election officials, and this report will be presented by our Manager of Corporate Services, Mr. Chow.
Through mayor to council, this is follow up with last council meeting. We engaged the consultant, and this is official appointment of chief election officer and the 2 deputy chief election officer. Once we make an appointment, we're going to start to publish some of the nomination paper, those kind of things, and we are hoping to do the public notice either after April 29. If not, we will have to do it still utilize newspaper as statutory means. But after 29 adoption, everything will use at the website, and UK mail will fulfill that requirement. Thank you.
Okay, so after this motion is passed, then the election officer will issue the public notice of the nomination period.
Yeah, depending on which specific date, we're going to check with him again. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, perfect. Any questions for Mr. Chow? No? Okay, there are 2 recommendations, and can they be moved together as well? Thank you.
I'll move that council, pursuant to section 58(1) and 2 of the Local Government Act, appoint Mark Brown of Panneton and Associates Limited as chief election officer for the purpose of conducting the 2025 by-election effective April 15th, 2025, with the power to appoint other election officials as required for the administration and conduct of the 2025 by-election. And I further move that Ed Chow, Manager of Corporate Services, and Kelly Wharton of Panneton and Associates Limited be appointed as Deputy Chief Election Officer for the 2025 by-election effective April 15th, 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Mafti. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. The next report item is contract award water treatment plant upgrades building supply package, and will be presented by the Director of Engineering Services, Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. So I have 2 reports on our agenda tonight concerning procurement of packages for the water treatment plant. This first report is asking for Council's consideration of a contract, and that contract is for a pre-engineered structure that will house all of the components in the Lost Shoe Creek Aquifer water treatment plant. The contract value is $1,130,000 plus GST. Again, the design of this treatment plant was presented to council on March 10th, and the supplier for this contract, it would be JCI Buildings Limited. The district closed a public tender on March 6th with 6 proposals received, which JCI was the lowest price and best ranked supplier. Those results, council, are appended to your agenda for review. And then this price fits within the line item budget that we have allocated for this item, as well as the total project budget. The contract will be an novation agreement, and that's an agreement between the owner, the district, the contractor, and the supplier. And so this is a time and schedule saver where the owner will purchase the contract beforehand and then novate or transfer that to the general contractor once they are hired. Council has provided 2 options here. Option A is to approve the contract, and option B is to direct staff to go back out to market. With that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. I see that there actually was one lower bid, but it was deemed to be non-compliant. Can you explain that?
That's right, Mayor. So they didn't meet the minimum requirements of the proposal.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Okay, any questions for Mr. McIntosh?
Have you had previous dealings with JCI Buildings Limited?
Through the mayor, so no, we have not had experience with JCI Buildings. They're a small firm out of Vancouver. References were contacted. They've done similar projects to this pre-manufactured still facility and appear to be a contractor that can provide this deliverable.
Good reviews, good feedback from references.
Yep, nothing flagged here that would be concerning, or I would it wouldn't be recommended.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. McIntosh? Councillor Anderson?
Through the mayor, this is just for my own personal, I'm sure kind of goes back to what the mayor was asking. The irrevocability non-compliance for the one of the people that didn't get it. When the tender goes out, this is just trying to get my head around it. When the tender goes out, was it 15 versus the 60-day irrevocability period? Is that what that was? Something like that? Do they know, or is it like, do they know what that time period has to be for the price that they submit? Is it odd that happens? That
Through the mayor, so there were a number of items that they didn't qualify for. So the proposal that they submitted had 3 or 4 items that were non-compliant to the tender and proposal that was put on BC Bids. That item was really the one that rose to the top, but there were several others that were non-compliant. So the proposal was essentially deemed not 100% complete and meeting the minimum requirements to be reviewed.
right?
Which they're aware of all of the requirements in the published document, which they're responding to.
Right. Excellent. That's a good answer. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. McIntosh? Seeing none, there is one recommendation.
I'll move that council authorize the mayor and corporate officer to enter into a contract with JCI Buildings Limited for the supply of a pre-engineered building for the water treatment upgrades project in the amount of $1,130,000 plus GST. Dollars.
Thank you, Councillor Mafty. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Councillor Anderson?
Oh, sorry. I thought you said all in favor. I zoned out there.
No. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor? None opposed, and that carries.
How often do we use the word novate? I had to look that up.
Right.
That was a
Novate.
new one for me. Novate. To replace something with something new.
Good word. Okay, the last report item is contract award, water treatment plant upgrades, filter supply package, and will be also presented by the Director of Engineering Services, Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is report 2 of 2 about procurement supplies for the Lost Shoe Creek Aquifer Treatment Plant. This contract is for the purchase of all the filter components that are going to go inside of that pre-manufactured building. So this is another long lead item that could disrupt the schedule if not purchased right away. The contract value here is for $1,460,000. The supplier here is AWC Water Solutions Limited. Again, the district closed a public tender on March 10th, of which 6 proposals were received. AWC was the best ranked vendor. Tender results are attached to your report, Council, for your review. So the contract is, again, another novation agreement, an agreement between the owner, the supplier, and the contractor, which will be novated to the contractor once they are hired. Council has been provided 2 options here to consider authorizing the contract or to direct staff to go back out to market. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. McIntosh? Councillor Hoare?
So the recommended contractor had fewer filters in their proposal, so fewer larger filters, so they would actually be able to do the same amount as the other proposer or the other contractors' proposals. I just wrapping my head around it. So, you know, it's like many small versus a few big. Is that kind of what we're working with here?
Through the mayor. So what the plant has in design is 6 large cylinders that will treat the water with green sand inside of it. There's future expansion possibilities to add 2 more cylinders, so 8 in our total 30-year build-out. This contractor has provided a proposal which meets all the minimum requirements, the technical specifications, and then provided an efficiency by optioning 4 large filters, 4 large cylinders, rather than 6 cylinders. And so it showed up in their price. They provided a better price and a proposal that is technically capable and efficient and functional.
So, follow up. How would that manifest in a build out over time? Like if the original was 6 going to 8, now we're 4, would that be going to say 6 of the larger filters and we'd still be at that higher capacity?
No, so there 4 larger filters rather than 6 filters. So they've just provided a bit of a different dimension than was specified and other vendors provided. So we'll have 4 large original cylinders with future options to expand on that at a later date and to be considered about size, dimension, functionality. But what they have provided is a proposal that treats the same, is a little bit more efficient, and costs a little bit less. So looks good to us.
I just didn't know if it meant we could get to an even larger capacity in the future because they were using less space up, and just wondering how the difference would look down the road for what we could potentially be able to do with that space, because space is limiting when we're talking about water filtration systems. So.
Yep, very much. There's a program called Revit, which we run all of these designs through, and allows engineers to consider space allocation for different proposals. And so a piping and instrumentation diagram has been created in a 3D space. And so as something is designed and considered, everything from future replacements, capacity availability, even right down to forklift turning movements in and out of the plant are considered here.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. McIntosh? Seeing none, there is one recommendation.
I can do that.
Councillor Anderson?
I will move that council authorize the mayor and corporate officer to enter into a contract with AWC Water Solutions Limited for the supply of a municipal water filtration system for the Lost Shoe Creek Aquifer LSCA water treatment plant in the amount of $460,000 plus GST.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Mafty seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Okay, are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, there are two correspondence items. The first is cannabis taxation sharing and municipal-owned cannabis retail stores. I don't believe we want to own our own cannabis retail store, unless someone has a strong opinion otherwise.
Where's Kennington when you need it?
The second correspondence item is called tonight's council meeting, which was probably our last council meeting. And I would like to speak to that a little bit. As Mr. Noel would know, having served on council in the past, once a public hearing has been held for a proposed development, mayor and council cannot receive any new information. The risk of that is that if we do receive new information, the proposal needs to go back to second reading and a new public hearing be held. So the fact that the developer wanted to be a delegation after the public hearing was his choice. But there was a danger of us receiving new information, as there was when councillors asked questions of the developer. And so trying to offset trying to mitigate the danger of us receiving new information was the purpose why I called the delegation off at 38 minutes, which is plenty long. Normally we allow a delegation 10 minutes. So that is the reason why I was trying to not endanger us by receiving any new information, and therefore putting the proposal back some steps when we have been trying to expedite it to the best of our ability. So I just wanted to make that known in case the public isn't aware of that process. I was just trying not to endanger that process. Okay, mayor's announcements and council committee reports. I just received notice today that business license renewals are due. Thank you for sending that out, and that came through as a Yuki mail, I believe, but it would also be on the website, and it lists several ways to renew your business license, and they have to be renewed by May the 1st. Is that correct, Mr. Cadman?
I believe that's correct.
Great. So just wanted to remind the business community about that. There are also 2 open houses regarding the new pay parking program, as Mr. Chow mentioned. The first one is tomorrow from 2 to 4 here at the community center for stakeholders. So that would be hoteliers and larger businesses that are wondering or maybe have some questions about the pay parking program. And the second one is from 5 till 7, also here at the community center. And that's for the general public. So hopefully we get a good turnout for those. And we'll move on to council committee reports. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, not too much other than the fact that we were at the AVICC conference for, was it 3 days, over 3 days. I think probably everybody wants to chime in on that, so I'll keep mine brief. I think Jen and Mark and I went to you went to something else on that first morning, but we went to, what was it called again? It was community healthcare. And that was great. That was a good talk to go to, and actually nice to speak to a couple of people afterwards. And then some of the problems that they're going through, or that the people from Nanaimo and Victoria, some of their problems might not totally relate to what we're going through right now, but they're definitely in the same position that we are in terms of fighting for a piece of healthcare, and there was a nod to the idea that we're in a remote situation out here and getting physicians out here, which was also nice because we had our new health minister, Josie Osborne, speak later in the conference, and then I got a chance to speak with her about that. So I think it's always been a challenge to get healthcare professionals out our way, especially on a rotating basis, and if they're not able to live out here, and essentially to help people not have to travel to all these specialist appointments. So I think, I don't know, I'll just say it, having Josie as a minister I think is going to be a real breakthrough for that. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Great, thank you. Councillor Hoare.
Yes, we were all at AVICC. Prior to that, we also had a little planning workshop the week prior that we all attended. I agree the community healthcare solutions was really interesting, and some of the statistics that were tossed out by the Fair Care Alliance, a group of very proactive medical service professionals based out of Nanaimo, was fascinating. That was probably my favorite thing, although, I always have a quote, but and I don't have a quote from that one because I didn't have my notebook, which is horrible. But there was another smaller workshop that was talking about redefining regional and community economic development, and a series of people taking part in that who, of course, I can't find it now. A group, so it was chaired by Islands Economic Trust. It was involved there's a South Islands Prosperity Partnership. And it was a quote from Aaron Stone, who runs that South Islands Prosperity Partnership, that I quite liked. And it was that you can't get economic prosperity without protecting the environment. So always remembering to have that lens. And so that is something that I would put it on a t-shirt or tattoo it on my arm or something, because, we all know I bleed green sometimes. And the other quote, because whenever he talks, there's always something to hear. John Jack, the chair of the ACRD and chief counselor of the Huu-ay-aht Nation, reminded us all when we were talking about economic development that while there's often multiple communities, there's a single economy. So it's really one economy out here on the coast, not just Tofino, not just Ucluelet, not just Uclueletha or Tlaloquiet. We all work together. So it's, part of that better together idea. Random ideas from this end of the table today.
Thanks, Councillor Hoare. Councillor Mafty.
Yeah, same conference. I also found the series of 4 presentations on public health themes to be very interesting. The first one from Reka Gustafson was a pretty large scale overview that I found particularly interesting, and she was talking about how different substances are regulated differently, how public perception influences like the political motivation to regulate substances one way or another, and it really highlighted the sort of the influence and the impact of political decisions on substance regulation. And it was interesting and refreshing to hear how little information goes into some of those political decisions, and that it leaves communities dealing with the fallout of, for example, people struggling with opioid addictions, and it's as an unregulated substance, the mechanisms that are there to help people through different substance addictions. Like it's just a much more difficult thing to deal with. And then there were some pretty encouraging and inspirational examples of how communities have come together to, invest a little bit of money in infrastructure to support people that are struggling with addiction and get them into safe housing. And not only were the results pretty conclusive that the success of the program was far greater than anything that had been tried before, but it was also a lot cheaper. And so it was just interesting to hear these sort of like small proven instances of, you know, a community saying, okay, we're going to build like 6 of these units, or we're going to have a program that's going to address the needs of a relatively small group. I've often heard about these issues at, you know, like the national scale. And then to hear from people who are, you know, I'm from Duncan and this is what we did. It's like, okay, maybe that's something that clicked for me, because to echo that point about one community, we're only a few thousand people out here, but we're not immune to those problems. And so maybe instead of waiting for like a national strategy, we can come up with something, you know, tailored to our needs, to our small population out here. And of course, Tofino's leading the way in a lot of that in terms of how they're investing money into, you know, sobering facilities and stuff like that. So anyway, I thought that was a really interesting morning.
And what about sugar?
Yeah, that was an interesting point that came up. I mean, yeah, I don't have any personal feelings. I'm the kind of guy who says, you know, legalize everything and let's educate people and support their good decisions. So if we've got sugar everywhere, I think people should be educated about how to consume it without suffering the detrimental effects of overconsumption.
I only brought that up because someone in your session raised that question.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I don't want to say it was funny because I think he had a valid point, but, you know, we're hearing these like heartrending stories about, you know, people dying from fentanyl overdoses. And it's like, well, there's too much sugary soda at the co-op. And it's like, yep, that's a problem too.
Well, I think there was a comment about how now I can't remember where it is, that they've actually started labeling sugary drinks, saying
I think he raised the example in Mexico. Where
was it Mexico?
Yeah,
okay. And it's, you know, this is basically, don't feed a kid this. It's too much sugar. You know, it's more than an adult dose. It's like, you know, people don't think about those dosages.
No, and that fellow, not to sidetrack here, but that fellow was from Haida Gwaii, and I think like I've seen some of the problems that he was referring to firsthand in the Arctic, where there's one store that serves the whole community. The store has very limited stock, and towards the end of the season, whatever's run out that's been brought in on a barge, like on a sea lift, is flown in at tremendous expense. And the you know, like the store and the manager, they have a lot of agency to decide what they stock. And when they stock sugary sodas, that's what people are going to buy. And you've got rates of diabetes and tooth decay and like all of these effects that are just astronomically higher than everywhere else. And it's a free market economy, and I don't believe in like a nanny state, but it does raise an interesting question. You know, if the co-op didn't, I'm not talking about the co-op here, but in the Arctic, like if they didn't stock sugary drinks, maybe that's a problem that, you know, you'd see a decrease.
Well, and when you look at the fact that, you know, things like the price of dairy is going up, so a 4 liter of milk now costs, what is it, 2 or 3 times as much as a 12 pack of Coke.
Yeah. And it's funny because it all started, or the points that were echoed by Dr. Gustafson, we sort of saw that same presentation as a delegation to council about how municipal governments can sort of lead the way in crafting an alcohol policy. And I think that by the same logic, we could have like a sugar policy. I'm not jumping on that to lead it, but it's remarkable how much money is spent and how much time goes into treatment for these, like, you know, I don't want to say unnecessary, but perhaps avoidable issues.
I wouldn't mind revisiting the idea of the alcohol policy, actually.
Let's discuss that over a beer.
Yeah. I think Tofino has one,
Yeah, they do.
so it would be an easy sort of template to use.
Yeah, that talk that you mentioned, that final talk, what the substances were, it was, yeah, alcohol was the one that was the most supported commercially and then socially accepted, but it has the most damage by far.
I was
It's interesting.
telling Courtney about it afterwards, and she was like, well, what do you mean, like, walk me through the talk? And I was like, well, like, you know, imagine you go to like the interior and there's this whole sort of tourism market geared towards like winery tours and try the wines and come to the vineyard. Like, imagine what it would be like, and the backlash if it was like, oh, like we grow the finest tobacco, come on like a tobacco farm tour and smoke all the different cigarettes, and that's horrifying. And yet people think that, like, it, I'm not advocating one or the other, but the difference in perception is shocking, and that comes after decades of, you know, it's decades that builds up to it. Like, alcohol used to be prohibited, and now it's regulated, but not nearly to the extent that cannabis is or tobacco is.
It's regulated, but it's also celebrated. Like, this is celebratory, so you get a bottle of bubbly and share it, or and there's more hospitalizations due to alcohol issues than there are due to opioid issues on Vancouver Island. Was it Vancouver Island or just North Island? Like,
I think
significantly
it
more.
was West Coast in Port Alberni. Dr. Charmaine Enns, when she presented to us, it was super high in Port Alberni and on the West Coast.
Particularly high, yeah. Dr. Gustafson was talking more Vancouver Island overall, I think.
West Coast and North Island were still like,
We're over and above.
leagues ahead. We're number one.
I'm not sure we should be proud of that.
Okay, that's the end of your report.
Longest mayor's announcement ever. Ever. Council committee report, I should say.
Right. Okay, so on to my meetings. March 26th, I was attended an ACRD board meeting by Zoom. They adopted their 5-year financial plan. Their 2025 budget is approximately $31 million. The financial plan includes a tax increase of 7.11%, including the Regional Hospital District annual budget. A little bit higher than ours. March 31st, I attended the seniors lunch at Forest Glen with the seniors advocate. He's new as of last year, I guess, when Isabel retired. So his name is Dan Levitt, and I had the pleasure of introducing him after the lunch to speak to the group. And of course, when there's a seniors lunch, it's not just the residents of Forest Glen, it's any senior in Ucluelet is welcome to attend. So the place was packed, and after his talk, he took questions. And they were really thought-provoking questions about some of the issues that seniors face here in our community. And and then I had an opportunity to meet with him, just him and I, at 1:30 after the seniors lunch. So we had a good discussion there as well. Very, very well-spoken gentleman.
It was levitating.
He was levitating, yes.
Sorry. I can.
Just leave it, Shanna.
I'll walk away. I'll see myself out.
Mic drop.
Where was I? Okay, April 3rd was the Resort Community Collaborative Mayors meeting on Teams at 9 o'clock. And it was interesting. We all do a quick round robin. There's 14 of us resort municipality mayors. There were only there were only 10 of us on this particular meeting. But it was interesting to hear what the trends are in other resort municipalities. And most of them said that it was a pretty tough January, February, but that March was looking much better. And so that's tough when you're a ski resort, to have a bad January, February, and a not so bad March. But it's funny because that trend is, I found, similar here. In the accommodation business, January and February was absolutely dead, probably because of the weather. But then March picked up and was really, really good. So it's interesting that the trend can be similar to resort municipalities, whether you're a ski resort or not. And Tofino and us are the only ones that aren't ski resorts. So I just thought that was interesting. And then at 11 o'clock that day was the Tourism Ucluelet meeting at Blackrock. A lot of it had to do with planning their annual general meeting, which was just later that week. But they are looking at potentially doing a tourism scholarship program. So doing an award or a scholarship or a bursary, they're not quite sure what to call it, but to have a student be eligible to to work here locally and get paid through a scholarship program. Tourism Tofino has such a thing, but they have faced some challenges filling their scholarship spots due to a lack of students enrolling in directly tourism-related programs. So that also I thought was interesting. And then later that day at 4 o'clock, we had a meeting with the person who was doing our service review, and so that was really interesting. 4 o'clock. April 4th, there are regular tariff response meetings on Teams. Gord Johns was calling them initially, but now that he's campaigning, he's not allowed to call these meetings, so Josie Osborne is doing them in his place. And that's just an update on what organizations are doing to combat the tariff that the U.S. is implementing. And I did share with council the three, I think there were actually 5 links. There's one for business, one for citizens, and one on the federal page that all tell what the government is doing for businesses to help combat the tariffs. April 9th, 10 o'clock, I had a BC Barclay Community Forest Corporation board meeting here at the Toquad office, and I got back on the agenda the fact that we want to have a tour of the community forest, and I brought along our interim CAO to that meeting so that he got a feel for what our community forest is doing for us. And so I believe Mr. Harding is going to connect with them to figure out some dates that we might be able to do a tour. And Councillor Hoare, your schedule may be the most the one that we have to work around the most, I'm guessing.
A little less so at the moment.
Okay. So Mr. Harding will reach out to Eric, the forester, to arrange that. And then the same day at 1:30, another Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board meeting on Zoom. And the interesting decision that was voted on was amending the Island Rail Corridor Consulting Services contract to include a track and bridge condition assessment of Port Alberni subdivisions in and around, especially Cameron Lake. They're hoping that the rail will support up to 10 tons of weight, so that there is at least a way of getting supplies in and out should that road be closed again, like it was in 2023. So they're putting an extra 61,000 toward that assessment.
Am I right that rail line runs on the far side of Cameron Lake from the road?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, just confirming that.
Yeah. And then at 6:30 that same night was the Tourism Ucluelet annual general meeting at Blackrock from 7 till 9. Doors opened at 6:30, and I brought Mr. Harding to that as well. Really well attended. Good representation from the business community, the tourism community. There were Tofino business operators that attended as well. I guess I should say I'm on that board. We got Kevin Bradshaw back on the board as a board member, so after a year off, and so they do have a full quorum now. And then there was an interesting discussion between Councillor Mafty and Samantha Hackett of the Tofino Chamber of Commerce regarding the.
I wasn't there as a counselor though.
No, sorry. Mark and Samantha regarding the what do you call it, the
West Coast Ambassador Program.
Ambassador Program. That's right. So that was great. And then, of course, April 10th to the 13th, I was at the AVICC, Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities in Nanaimo. And one of the highlights for me was the pre-conference session, I did a tour of, it was called reconciliation and what was the other word? Resilience? Anyway, it was a tour of some of the projects that the city of Nanaimo has been working on over the past while. And it was a bus tour, but there was a lot of walking involved as well. So it was, I forgot to bring that report with me, but it was a great tour that morning. And so that was Friday morning before the conference started. Okay, that's it for councillors. So now we are moving on to question period. This is an opportunity for the public to ask questions and comment on matters within council's jurisdiction. Representations about bylaws that council is prohibited from holding a public hearing on, or bylaws that were subject to a public hearing, are not permitted at this time. Are there any audience members that wish to address council?
I actually had a question prior to question period.
Okay.
And maybe more of an informational thing, because it's the early voting for the federal election is this coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and only up in Tofino. So there is no early voting in Ucluelet this time. And I just wanted to make sure that got out there, because I know a lot of people who early vote. So you will have to go to Tofino's, to the community hall.
And do we know why there's no early voting here in Ucluelet?
Apparently, somebody was looking into it. I did see a little bit of scuttlebutt on the community board about it. Yeah, there was a ball dropped somewhere.
Okay. So we have no audience members. So are there any members of the public attending by Zoom or telephone that wish to address council?
Any public member on the phone or Zoom, if you wish to speak to council, please raise your hand. No one raised hand.
Okay, and have we received any emails to communityinput@ucluelet.ca during the meeting?
No email received.
Okay. I will move that the April 15th, 2025 regular council meeting be closed to the public pursuant to the following sections of the community charter. 90(1)(I), the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Mafty seconds. All in favor? That carries. We are now adjourned. Or the open session.